This is FPSKivotos. Let's get started. On today's episode, we're going to talk about Kotama, one of the members of Veritas. Kotama's firearm of choice is the Glock 19 Gen 5. The firearm I have here is the Lone Wolf LTD. It's basically a Glock 19 clone. As always, we're going to talk about their similarities and differences, go over their animations in game, and show you guys some range time. The Glock 19 and the Glock in general is a very well-known pistol and a really well-known manufacturer. They make tons and tons of different Glocks. They don't really innovate that much anymore these days, but they do make really solid firearms. They're used by military, police, and civilians alike. First things first, let's talk about the similarities. Obviously, we have the color. That'll always be the first thing I talk about. The color is exactly the same. Well, for the most part, is the same. We got a nice white color that has been seen a lot of beating, but it does look pretty good, as well as the blue stripes on the side here. They aren't exactly the same color, but for the most part, it looks pretty good. Another similarity that I alluded to was the little stripes here on the side. They are this little blue color. Is basically on the serrations right here on the slide. As I mentioned before, they're not exactly the same color, but they're close enough to what hers is that I'm not too worried about it all that much. Her magazine is painted, so is mine, obviously. The full thing is actually white, but I didn't really want to do that, so I just did the little base plate here. This little grip module right here in the front, it's supposed to be black, but I didn't really want to do that, so I just used this rubber grip thing, essentially. Came with this when I bought it because it's a used firearm, and so I decided to keep that on there as well. The serrations on the slide here aren't exactly the same, but they're pretty close to what she has. So other than that, that's basically it for the similarities. There is quite a few differences between mine and hers, just because hers is kind of unique. Especially a lot of Millennium firearms are very unique because they have a lot of their like sci-fi greebles that they have on them. When it comes to Kotama, around this part of here, let me see, around this part of her Glock, she has like this little weird circular thing. Her pistol is called Echo Link, which is probably already on the screen, and I think that's some sort of wiretap thing where she can listen into a whole bunch of comms and stuff like that. I think that's what that's for. I'm not entirely sure, but it fits her character pretty well. Right up here in the front, kind of on the receiver end, she has this like blue stripe here. I couldn't exactly replicate that, so I decided to kind of avoid that and not have that on my version. Another thing that's different, she has the Millennium logo here. I had a sticker here. It was a sticker on rubber, so it fell off pretty easily. I still have a whole bunch of those stickers, but I'm not really worried about slapping that on there because it's just going to fall off again, so we're just not going to deal with that. And the biggest difference is her slide as a whole. As we can see in the pictures here, she doesn't have a rear sight. It's a little weird looking that she just has a front post, but at the end of the day, she's not really shooting it that much, other than in her, her camping garb, but usually she's not shooting it that much, so I guess I can kind of understand why it doesn't have the rear sight, but, to each their own. They're still pretty accurate with them nonetheless, so I'll let that slide. If you guys have been enjoying this episode so far, please make sure to wiretap the notification bell just so you know when I upload every single time. When it comes to on-the-field combat, Kotama has one animation for her support card and a few different animations for her camping outfit. She gets a nice little idea from her little jukebox with wiretapping and throws it out on the field, where when her allies go and pick it up, they get a little bit of an attack boost. Now when it comes to her most recent card, she's actually on the field as a striker. So for this one, we actually get to see her use her firearm. Just like everybody else, she has two different reload animations, one for standing up and one for crouching down. One of the really interesting things about her, and about a decent handful of the pistol users in the game, they actually shoot their firearms one-handed, and in her case, as well as most of them because of the perspective, they shoot them left-handed. It actually works out pretty well for me because I'm also left-handed, as you can see in a lot of the firing footage, so it makes life a little bit easier. But when it comes to those animations, she drops her mag on the ground, puts a new one in, and releases a slide forward. One of the interesting things about it is that usually on a Glock and most firearms, when you shoot the last round, because usually they only do their reloads on their last round, the slide will lock back on the empty chamber. That's usually how it works, but in game, for some reason it doesn't, and she just racks another one in, which is kind of weird because it should lock back there shouldn't really be a reason why it doesn't lock back unless it's like jammed, or maybe there's still a round in her magazine even though she does her reload. We're not really entirely sure. Maybe it's just a little oversight on them because it's supposed to lock back, and there's like only like if the, you know, I guess the power of the last round shot wasn't enough to hold it open. It's kind of interesting that that was like overshadowed, but it's not that big of a deal. It's kind of neat to see though. And when it comes to the crouching one, she has a little bit of a different pose when shooting, and I try to replicate that as best I could as well. And same thing, she drops the mag on the ground, puts a fresh one in there, and rocks the slide back in position. When it comes to her camping outfit EX skill, she throws what it's supposed to be a bear bell, which is supposed to deter them, at the target, and it does a massive amount of damage. It's kind of cute to see how terrified she is of bears. I mean, I am too. I think most people are scared of bears, but it is cute to hear how loud she screams when she spots it. I also find it really cute how a little bush appears on the screen and then disappears. As for my final thoughts, it's a pretty nice pistol. Glocks are pretty reliable for the most part. I did have a few jams, but it was either because of the cold weather or some of the ammunition, didn't like it that much. I haven't really oiled it since I painted it, so it does have a little bit of hang up every once in a while. Obviously, I've shot it a lot, so you can see the, you know, the black residue on the front here and all over the pistol in general. The paint is kind of scraping off. It's not that big of a deal. It's, you know, it's spray paint. I'm not really surprised with it coming off. It gives it some character, you know. These are my firearms, so they will have the wear and tear on them that I'm not really too worried about at the end of the day. I don't really know if I'm going to do any other upgrades to it in the future, but who knows, we'll see. With all that out of the way, thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you guys in the next one.